Hello, how's it going? So one of the things I wanted to talk about today is largely something to do with economics and finance. So these are two areas that I actually know something about. So not to say that everything I've said elsewhere is completely full of nonsense, but this is one area I seem to know a bit more than most people. So I don't know everything, and I don't have a crystal ball, but I think when you've studied a field, you can see what most people can't see. So, as of today, so this is April 15th, tax day. So Elon Musk is basically bought, I think it was 9.2% uh, of the Twitter stock. Obviously, Twitter is a very important social media tool. I don't like it very much because it's a toxic minefield. It's way too political. Like I say on here often, politics is very cancerous, but it does seem to be sort of an incubation center for thoughts and political thought and communication, and there seems to be a very large network effect between journalists, politicians, and just general thinkers out there. Um, as well, whether you like these people or not, they tend to be fairly hit way above their average. They're what could be their average, a punch above their weight, so to speak. And so he's bought a significant portion of Twitter stock, which caused the Twitter stock price to rise just by the announcement of him. He was invited onto the board, which he subsequently declined because there was a contract associated with it. You can't buy more than 14% of the total stock. Um, and you also have uh, sort of a fiduciary responsibility, which means essentially that you can't say things that would sort of either out the stock, which cause it to artificially rise, or to cause it to plummet. You kind of just have to watch what you say, and that's just not Elon's modus operandi. So he says, no, what I want to do is I actually want to buy it outright, make the whole company private. Now, I don't know how possible that is. A lot of this is going to be down to what the SEC has to say, the Securities and Exchange Commission, who sort of police publicly traded companies, as well as commodities and things like that. And he's never been a fan of the SEC. I've heard a story, and I don't know if it's true, but it seems to be uh, compared to what he has said about the SEC in the past. It seems to be in the same vein that essentially some law firm that was doing business with him, either in Tesla or SpaceX, um, had somebody on their staff who wasn't directly involved with Tesla, who had worked for the Securities and Exchange Commission. He fired the whole firm because this person had worked on the SEC or at the SEC. That's that's a bit extreme. I understand a lot of the problems with the SEC. They're an extremely political agency in the government. Um, they basically are the political hatchet man for the president. So recently, Joe Biden has come out and said some very anti uh, cryptocurrency things. The guy who he has put at the head of the SEC, Gary Gensler, is actually taught a course on MIT. At MIT, you can go see it on MIT, their open courseware. Um, he is taught this. He actually knows a decent amount, as much as a finance guy would know, but he's, this because it does tend to be very technical. But he seems to have a good grasp on it. It's just that he's a political. I don't want to disparage him, but he's a political guy. He's going to surrender his knowledge, his intuition as an economist or a finance guy, to the political whims of the day, which is unfortunate, but a lot of people tend to do that. So anyway, Elon has been very SEC negative, and he has basically gone on a rampage about this. And it seems like his refusal to accept this uh, seat on the board of Twitter means that he's not bound by the rules of the contract that you'd have to sign to be on the board, which means you don't make any executive decisions. You can vote on who's on the board, but once the vote's over, um, you just sit there and collect your money, or you just cry because you lost stock value. Um, but this frees him up to say a lot of things that he doesn't have to be a passive. He doesn't have to sit there and just accept whatever the board says, and he would be outvoted easily. Now, the interesting thing that he has, he when you look at who's on the boards, you have a lot of them are institutional investors. So companies like BlackRock and Vanguard. So these are companies that essentially take people's pensions or 401ks or IRAs, whatever, however you decide to invest, or if it's just something you're doing long before you're talking about retirement. So these people are acting on behalf of millions of Americans and who want to invest in the stock market, but just don't really want to take an active role. They just want to stick their money somewhere, um, and so that's the whole point of passive investing, is that you just stick your money in there and just hope for the best. Now, if you look at the past, John Bogle, um, whatever his name is, who originally started Vanguard, basically came up with this idea is that you can't beat in an index fund. So if you invest like clear across the board in the S&P 500, you're going to outperform any managed fund on a long-term basis. You just can't do better than that. Part of it has to do with the fact is that the S&P 500 tends to be the 500 highest market cap companies in the country. So these tend to attract the best CEOs. They tend to attract the most investment. They tend to attract the most basically commercial banking. So whenever they want a loan, they can get it. And so you can invest in this, and your money will grow in the long term. And that's why it's a diversification way. It's a diversification. How would you call it? Technique. It also saves you a lot of time because you're not thinking about managing your own funds. You're just stick some money in there and watch it grow. As long as you have the patience to let it go, then you're not going to see amazing returns, but they add up. The compound interest works also in tech stock, or any stocks for that matter, as long as you diversify. Now, one thing that Elon Musk has going for him in this case is that he's now finding that the board is thinking about rejecting his offer. Now, what that does is anybody on that board has signed a fiduciary contract, like they tried to make him sign. So basically, they can't do anything to artificially increase the price of the company or cause it to crash. So anybody on there has to be careful of what they say. Now, as far as these institutional investors are concerned, they have a different motivation than a private investor like Elon Musk. They are required to report back to their investors. Remember, millions of Americans are investing in BlackRock and Vanguard, and they want answers. So when Elon Musk says anything you have, Vanguard, BlackRock, anything you have invested in this company, I'll give you a 50%. So if you have let's say $1 billion each, you will now get $1.5 billion. Now it's going to be hard for the people that BlackRock and Vanguard have put on the board to go back to their investors and say, yeah, $500 million, I turned that down. Why? You're going to have to answer that question. Now, it's amazing for any manager to come back with a 50% return on your investment. It doesn't happen on a day-to-day basis, and it happens instantly as soon as they accept the bid. They're going to have to explain why they're not doing that. Just think about it from your own perspective. You put money in someone's hands and say, just ride it out, ride out the market. And then now they're playing political games with your money. It's just not on as far as I'm concerned. I put my money in your hands because I thought you were capable, and now you're pissing my money away. So it's basically it's causing these people who have sort of hid in a vague veil. We don't know whether these investors are woke or if they're just using wokeism cynically. And that's sort of the problem that we're faced with is, do these people believe what they say, which is a problem in and of itself, or are they just using it as a skin wear or coat wear? Well, if they believe what they say, they're no longer fiduciarily responsibly. I don't know how to say that word. They're no longer doing their fiduciary responsibility they promised they would do as members of Twitter, the Twitter board. And they're also not doing their fiduciary responsibility to the investors in their firm. Likewise, if they actually believe in the wokeism, or they don't, they're just wearing the skin suit of a wokeism, and they sell out to him, they will basically be outed as absolutely just the most cynical pieces of crap out on the market, and just using this as a vehicle just to survive. It really makes you wonder: would you rather these people do? Would you rather them be frauds and just go, just use it because it's convenient for them to call themselves woke, and then when it's inconvenient for them to call themselves woke, bail on it, which means irrational. They might be underhanded, they might be seedy, they might be just disgusting pieces of crap, using politics to divide people up in this country, or they actually believe in this stuff, which means they are irrational. They do not care about your money. They're, not only are they just out to lunch, you shouldn't be giving money to people who are out to lunch to invest on your behalf. So he's done this amazing little trick where if he wins and they cave, then he gets Twitter and he gets to do what he wants with it. I doubt he's going to get 100% share, but he's going to get maybe even a majority, and he's going to be able to what he wants with the company. Now, the thing is that if he takes it completely private, that means that he can take it off the SEC board. That the SEC no longer has anything to do with this, and the only thing he has to worry about is the FEC, the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission. Sorry. That's a totally different kettle of fish. They tend to be a little bit more libertarian than the SEC. But not always. It really depends on who the president is. However, if he's not able to do this, he has a large enough share in the stock. He basically says, he's already come out and says, I have no confidence in the management of this company. They have mismanaged this company for years. They've scuttled free speech in this country. I'm talking about First Amendment free speech. I'm talking about free speech. You're not allowed to talk about certain things on Twitter. And since it happens to be an incubation center for ideas and political discourse, they basically have made it illegal to talk about things. Use certain things you can't talk about there. Why? It's because these people have a political bent. So anyway, if he gets rejected, he basically can say, well, whatever it's trading at, I have no confidence in this company. Everything I touch turns to gold. This company is full of shit, and I'm just going to dump my stock on it. And the thing is that because these people have a fiduciary responsibility, and these institutional investors are going to have to go back and say, so let me get this straight. You had the option of A, selling your stock, getting a 50% return on it, or B, having, basically half the price. You went from 50% return to 50% loss. Now, I don't know what exactly the loss is going to be, but it's not going to be as high because it did take an uptick as soon as it was announced that he took the stock. This guy, people follow him. They like the way he does business. He does have this sort of puckish like mentality, which is really fun to watch because he just him see him screw with people like Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, you know, people that unless you're a diehard Democrat, nobody takes them seriously because you pretend you're an Indian and you're a socialist. Anybody who isn't a far gone left wing person just doesn't take these people seriously. So anyway, it should be an interesting thing. He's really backed them in the corner. He's going to either fix Twitter or he's going to break it, and it's going to be fun to watch. Obviously, there are other ways this could pan out, but these are the two most likely outcomes of Elon sort of getting involved with Twitter. It's fun to watch, and I can't wait for the next episode. So I'll see you soon. Bye.